Who is YogaDawg? And how has he come to be such a force in the yoga world? Born around 1910 and abandoned to a band of roaming bohemians, intellectuals, drug addicts, harlots and other sordid losers, YogaDawg began his yoga journey by hearing drunken debates on the great occult texts of the day. In the process of being immersed at an early age to these classics, along with the decadent literature and boogie-woogie of the time, YogaDawg became interested in and fascinated by the methods and practices of these occult people, writers and musicians with their out-of-body experiences in which they claimed to transcend the physical body to put them in closer touch with the absolute. In the mid-1920s, YogaDawg found a copy of the Karma Sutras that one of the flappers had left over one evening, which inspired YogaDawg to become a student of yoga. Beginning in the early 1930s, upon hearing about the great yogi, Krishnamurti, YogaDawg set off for India to meet this most enlightened teacher of yoga. Unfortunately at the time, not many Americans knew where India was, so YogaDawg ended up in Indiana as he was told that's where India was located. Upon arriving in Indianapolis, YogaDawg inquired as to the whereabouts of Krishnamurti and the other yogis. No one knew what he was talking about. Good fortune, though, would eventually shine on YogaDawg as he ran into a carny that convinced him to join the circus. As YogaDawg explained, that carnival barker told me of the wonders of the Midway with their contortionists, magicians, fire eaters and others who were doing things more amazing than any yoga master. Through those years, YogaDawg would acquire many of the skills and wisdom of his circus friends. In 1947, YogaDawg went to India, this time consulting the world map, with the intention of studying with a real Indian yoga master. It was around this time that he began to pen his pivotal work, My Third Voyages, a yoga guide. He would eventually become distracted upon discovery in 1950 of one of the first American yoga stars of the time, Richard Hittleman. Having absorbed the truths of Indian yoga while spending the last few years in Mysore, YogaDawg decided to go to New York City, where Hittleman was located. He would sadly abandon his yoga guide for the next several years. On reaching New York, YogaDawg became involved with a group of abstract painters, jazz musicians and beatniks, eventually pioneering an early example of conceptual art. Unfortunately, his work was too advanced and strange for art critics and the American public at the time, and his art was dismissed. Sadly, by 1961, facing failure as an artist and never having met Mr. Hittleman, YogaDawg sunk into deep morals, began doing drugs and alcohol, suffered a severe depression and had to eventually be committed to a mental hospital for several years. YogaDawg began his slow recovery back to sanity after watching a yoga show on PBS TV, Stretching with Lilias. In the late 60s, YogaDawg, renewed, refreshed and inspired to restart his yoga practice and going to complete his famous tome, My Third Voyages, traveled back to India, this time to join the Beatles and the famous guru star, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi and his transcendental meditation. He never made it to Maharishi's ashram, when he had stopped to ask a wandering sadhu for directions. This sadhu convinced YogaDawg that transcendental meditation was whack and suggested that YogaDawg spend time alone in a cave in the Himalayas to search within himself for the eternal yoga truth. The next 30 or so years, considered the lost years by the two followers of YogaDawg, would find him in the cave. Upon reaching the state of enlightenment and perfecting the unique method of physical yoga, named the Super Duper Bliss Inducer Super Bok Choy method, YogaDawg was honored by the neighboring sadhus by being given the name Sri Sri Swami Bhagavata YogaDawg. On July 4, 2003, YogaDawg emerged from his cave with the purpose of spreading his yoga method to the people of the world. At the suggestion of the wandering sadhus, YogaDawg made off for Los Angeles. Upon reaching Los Angeles, YogaDawg was stunned as he walked through the airport terminal as he saw a celebrity magazine with a woman doing a yoga pose who went by the name of Madonna. He was equally stunned to realize that many yogis before him had already established schools of yoga. In addition, he found that the yoga world had become saturated with yoga stars, which left little room to introduce his yoga method to the general public. Disheartened that he would not be able to establish his own yoga school, he consigned himself to completing his famous masterpiece, My Third Eye Itches, while holed up in a downtown Los Angeles flop house. Assisted by his two faithful disciples, Mad Dog and his lovely wife Hot Dog, YogaDawg today leads a reclusive life, living off his royalties from his book and t-shirt sales at www.yogadawg.com.